and nothing else happened. Kyle, what do you got? Please, let's move on. Please, please, please.
We might have to talk it for a second. I don't know.
Okay, fine.
Welcome to Center Cup. I am Kyle Muserino here with Will Neary and Nick Newmeyer, and we've got a packed show today. We are recapping the WM Phoenix Open, where we all were reporting from. We were all covering different angles of the tournament. We had different guys we were following, plenty of different stuff to dive into. A lot of good insights from all three of us from our week in Scottsdale. So we're going to get into that. We'll quickly recap some of the actions from Live, the DP World Tour, and some Corn Ferry Tour stuff from over the weekend, as well as check in on our follow-through picks. But first, the biggest story in golf over the past few days, Neil Shipley's TGL hole-in-one. Okay, maybe not. Maybe we can talk about that later. But really, the news from the weekend was Hideki's collapse at the WM Phoenix Open. Nick, you were closest to the site of that. What'd you see? Break it all down from us from how this tournament finished.
Yeah, no, it was just a truly electric atmosphere. I think it was just really I really felt bad for Hideki. I'll be entirely honest because I think he had only three fairways that day. Like he was just really almost trying to give it away. Like he was electric the entire week and then it just all started falling apart. But all things considered, he took a one stroke lead into the 18th hole and then tugged it into the bunker, the church pew bunkers on the left. And as he was trying to get out, he clipped the lip, put himself about 40-ish yards out. Couldn't get, like I saw the shot, he couldn't get any spin out of that rough. Like it was really beefy rough, honestly. And he couldn't get any spin, puts it to about 20. So he's got 20 feet to win the tournament. And right as he's about to hit, some idiot from just across the way yells, "Get in the hole!" And he has to like step off. And that
Do you think that
I'm
was
not.
intentional? Was it mistimed? What'd you feel as like you heard that? Were you like, oh my God?
I, along with basically everybody that was standing around, was just kind of like, come on, like really, like it felt like mistimed. Like I feel like he was trying to get it just like as soon as he like made the putting stroke, and it was just mistimed. I personally didn't think it was malicious, but yeah, and then he stepped off. I'm not saying he was gonna make the putt because it was kind of a tricky putt to begin with, but missed the putt. We go to a playoff with Chris Gotterup. And that's not all for Hideki, because as he's getting up there to hit his shot, a marshal drops a chair on the tee box. He has to step off again. And so he truly couldn't catch a break. And then he hits it left again off the tee, carries the water, but it hits a pole and bounces back into the water. And so then he ends up giving himself like 25 feet for par. Goddard just smashes it down the fairway, puts it to about 20 feet himself, and then drains the birdie putt for the win. And the whole place goes nuts.
I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And Will, you and I were following it closely, and we were wondering, oh, is Hideki going to be able to hold on? Because we could tell he was sputtering, absolutely sputtering. And there were like, what, five or six guys that ended up being right there at the end. Any one of them could have taken this home. I mean, we were really like, is Hideki going to be able to hold on? And in the end, he wasn't.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean it was a tough finish for sure. But like you're saying, Kyle, we were watching and keeping track of what was going on with Hideki. I think they were. I don't even know if he got to a third fairway hit. It was either two or three. I know it was two at one point early, and they flagged it pretty early on, and then he kept missing them. I mean, we kept, and I know when he was coming into 15. We were looking at 15 as a hole that might cause him some trouble with all that water left. And I know you and I were saying, like, wow, man, if this is a dangerous hole. And he didn't go left to his credit, but man, he went as far right as he possibly can. Forced a layup, ended up making birdie on that hole anyways, with just a really nice wedge shot from the fairway. But yeah, it was unfortunate. And like you said, Nick, I kind of doubt that get in the hole shout was malicious. I mean, it feels like I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Like we've been cutting that closer and closer on those putts every single time. Like we're really trying. It feels like people are trying to yell the second the putter makes contact. Um, and again, yeah, that chair drop by the marshal was unlucky. It's a funny reminder. I think I saw Gabby Herzig maybe tweeted this, but she mentioned, it's a good reminder that that TPC Scottsdale has church pew bunkers for some reason on 18 that are almost never relevant ever, especially now when guys just blast it over to the right and they're fine. Um, but yeah, I mean, it felt like that was unraveling. I wasn't sure when exactly it was going to happen. I honestly, after what we saw on 15, was expecting him to blast it right again on 18, but ends up with Goddard, and good for him. Yeah, Hideki just he didn't have the driver at all on Sunday. I don't even think it was like, nerves on 18, nerves in the playoff. He just didn't have it at all. He was trying to lose that tournament for a couple holds there, I think.
I
Yeah, it's
mean,
just a difficult set of circumstances for him. And I'm not gonna judge because on Sunday I did knock over a chair like on the course. I did, and thankfully no one was on the green, no one was on the tee box, but I did get some dirty looks. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna judge that Marshall on 18.
well, it's a shame that I think people are going to walk away saying, "Oh, the WM Phoenix Open again, too rowdy, uncontrolled." And it really wasn't like that. We were there since Wednesday, and sure, the sheer crowds were a lot of people, but there was nothing over the top, extraordinary. People weren't absolutely out of control that I noticed.
No, it is a shame. Like you said, and I think again, not to second shout out for Gabby Herzig in the first, 5 minutes of the podcast, but she also tweeted like the whether or not the last comment was malicious on 18, like it was a totally tame tournament, more tame than I think the WM has been. Obviously, last year I don't think there were really any issues either. Obviously, 2024 stands out as the year that needed addressing as we came into 25 and 26 at TPC Scottsdale. But no, I didn't notice a single. I mean, you see drunk fans and you see people, staggering around a little bit, but in terms of noise or disrespect or things directly against the etiquette of golf, I didn't really see anything that stood out to me that felt like it was, this tournament was again against the etiquette of golf or against what the PGA Tour tends to stand for.
Yeah, I think just walking around, the one observation that I made was like, I felt that I was walking around a frat party rather than like
Hmm.
just seeing how everyone was dressed. Like
Yeah,
it was definitely a different experience. But I feel like, I asked a lot of players this weekend just their thoughts on the tournament, just their thoughts on the fans, and a lot of them said that they loved it, that they thought it was really interesting. And the one thing that I heard from them was that if it was more than once a year that they had this, they would hate it. But because it's just that like one little time, they were just totally fine with it.
100%.
that
I will get deeper into our like what we wrote about, but I talked to a bunch of caddies and they had the same and I was focusing on first time caddies and a lot of them had the same response. I was asking them like, hey, with these young guys, like this is your first time here, like how much of a factor do the fans play in your preparation? And they were all pretty much like, look, we accept that this happens once a year, and honestly, because of that, we love it and we embrace it. And a lot of these young guys like love playing in this atmosphere, love playing with rowdy, excited fans. Again, as long as it doesn't disrupt the standard play of golf. But I mean, I talked to Neil Shipley's caddy, I talked to Marco Penja's caddy. Both of them were like, "Look, I'm more confident in my guy in an environment like this than if it was dead quiet and people didn't seem like they cared."
Totally. And I think the what I heard from hearing different players' press conferences and like Will had mentioned with caddies is it's not even about as guys are lining up their shots or getting ready to approach and people are yelling and stuff. It's kind of the in-between stuff where I know Jake Knapp had mentioned you got to just keep yourself busy in between and your ears closed because there are so many distractions. There's so many young people. It's just unlike any other tournament I think they see. So Nick's totally right. Where I think if this were more than one tournament a year, they might not be as fond of it as they are. But you know what you're getting into. So that's the mental prep that also comes with going to this tournament.
And I think you have to look at the impact it has on the game of golf. And so I asked Sahith Theegala that same question on Wednesday at his presser, and he said he has friends every year that ask him for tickets to this tournament, and he looks at them, he's like, "You guys don't even golf." Like it just brings in a new wave of fans. Like I talked to so many people on 16. I just plopped myself down on a chair and just made friends and just
Yeah.
tried to talk to as many people, just get a feeling on the whole. I talked to like maybe 10 people, maybe two of them actually played golf. Like it was just seeing. it was just so different to anything I've ever observed. And you have people that like they come every single year and never picked up a golf club once in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what makes it such a unique tournament for sure.
Yeah, and I mean to tie it back to the tournament itself, I mean another thing that makes it unique to me is the finish. I know I'll talk about this a little bit more, but I think it was funny watching the Hideki versus. I mean, Chris Goddard didn't seem like he was a part of this, and then
No.
I think on the broadcast at one point he makes a doesn't he misses a birdie putt or maybe like taps in a short par putt, and they basically say, well, that'll end his run here, that'll end his contention. And then another one of the announcers says, I think there's still a little bit of a twist coming, especially with the way your leader Hideki's playing. I mean, and it ended up playing out exactly that same way. The last six holes of this tournament, which is something I focused on a lot this week in my writing specifically, was just they're really, really interesting and they encourage like really weird finishes. And we had, there's the two par fives, the drivable par four 17th, which was playing impossible on Sunday. I mean, the pin
Mhm.
tucked all the way in the back there. I think they had said they hadn't seen anybody get up and down from the front left of the green. And I mean, it was just playing so difficult. Obviously, the 18th is its own animal, but the par three 16. But you see, like Chris Goddard comes through there, birdies. The only hole he doesn't birdie is that 16th hole. He birdies 13, 14, 15, 17, 18 to finish, and then birdies 18 again in the playoff. And you see a guy like Thor Bjornsson who looked like he had this in control. He eagles 15 after just like a monstrous drive, hits an 8 iron to, 8 feet left of the pin, drains the putt, takes a one-shot lead over Hideki, and you're like, wow, okay, we got this guy's going to run this down to the wire and take this. But then, the atmosphere on 16, he juices a club, goes long, he's screwed there. He has to chip it up to 20 feet, miss the par putt. On 17, again, little pull, and all of a sudden he's in the water. And it's these like that finish where you have a guy like Goddard who's able to make five birdies, and then Thor Bjornsson who makes an eagle, and then immediately follows it up with two back-to-back bogeys to basically take himself out of this. It's an awesome tournament, man. And I think sometimes we lose the golf in like the atmosphere of it all. I mean, but we had seven players within one shot of a playoff. We had obviously the two-way playoff and then at 16 under and then another five players at 15. And it's just an awesome tournament that tends to end with these great finishes between great players. You might not think Goddard's necessarily a great player, but he's won two of his three starts this year. So, maybe he is. Like he might be one of those guys. This is just going to be one of those years where we see him knock out four of maybe the not biggest events, and maybe he knocks out a big one too. But no, this tournament's awesome. It was incredible to be there in person, even though we're spending a lot of time in the media tent. But um, yeah, I'm in love with this finish. I think it really really forces like it forces all the golfers into one place because if you play safe with the lead, a guy's going to catch you, and if you get too aggressive, like Thorbjornsen might have on 17, and maybe target that back pin on 16 too, like you have the opportunity to make bogeys really really fast.
Yeah, it's definitely a tournament that can bite you if you let it bite you. I think we saw like even someone like Brooks Koepka wasn't, kind of took the same approach, like wasn't playing super aggressive and like it just didn't work out for him. And like there's a lot of players didn't really make the cut. And it's a very interesting tournament. Just I feel like everybody just feeds off of the energy. And like look, as like I got asked this question by one of the old fans I was talking to. They asked like, what do you think as a younger fan? I'm like, I think this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. As like a golf purist, I would be horrified by this, but it's just like I think yesterday when I got back to my apartment, like I was so tired. I think I just showered and like fell asleep. Like that tournament was just draining, but it was so much fun and like I'm already itching to just get back to another tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot out of you covering it, so I can't imagine what it would be like playing in it. Will, you're so right that some of these holes they just punish you if you make one little mistake. And I think we kind of saw that reflected in some of the Sunday scores. Nobody like went super low other than Scotty, of course, who made an absolute charge and we thought, oh my God, he's going to actually do it. You kind of touched on some of them, but who were some of the other guys that caught your guys' eye over this past weekend who played really well?
I mean, you mentioned it, but Scotty's ridiculous. Like he handicapped himself with a 73 in round one, and we're all sitting there like, oh my God, like what's going, like, is Scotty okay? Like, he looked horrible. He's flubbing chips. He's missing putts. He just looked completely out of it. Of course, he ends up one shot out of the playoff T3, like completely in it, had opportunities to win this thing down the stretch, like, or at least get himself into that playoff. I mean, it almost felt, I know he didn't end up winning it, but on Sunday when he's, pressing for the lead, he's one back. You're like, oh my God, are we for real? Like, he's gonna do this? I mean, it would have been an awesome thing to see, but he's one that stood out. I mean, we don't need to talk about him a ton just because we know who he is and we know how fantastic he is. I want to do, we've shouted these guys both out before on this podcast, but Siwoo and Pearson Cootie are two guys I want to just give a quick highlight to. I mean, Siwoo, I think we mentioned this exact same thing last week, but he does it again. He's T11 at the Sony Open, T6 at the Amex, T2 at the Farmers, and now T3, one shot out of the playoff at the WM Phoenix Open. That's four straight starts, the only four tournaments he's played this year, obviously, because there's only been four. But I mean, a pretty outrageous start. I mean, he hasn't knocked one out, he hasn't won, but he just keeps playing. He also shot a 73 in the first round, which went a little unsung. I think that he did the exact same thing as Scotty. He was two over in round one, followed that up with a 9 under 62 on Friday just for giggles, and then finds himself one shot out of this thing. On Sunday, continues a ridiculous start to the season. And Pearson Cootie just keeps rolling too. I mean, again, same as Siwoo, maybe a little bit outside of that level that Siwoo's playing at, but T10 this week. And again, he's only been top 20. He's been top 20 in all four events this year. He again, like, he shot pretty steady today, or this weekend. It was 66, 68, 70, 68. No, like, real low ones. He was kind of a one low, like, real low round away from putting himself in real contention. But he just keeps playing good golf. And I know there's a bunch of other guys to highlight here. I'm not going to take them all, but those are two guys that I think are having pretty incredible starts to the season, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them play some of these bigger events, especially when we get guys like Rory and Tommy back from, their hiatus and DP World Tour stints. So it'll be really cool to watch those guys as the season progresses.
For sure. And I think so like the three guys that I want to highlight are the people that I followed. So like I was able to walk inside the ropes on Sunday, which I feel like I just processed how cool that was last night. And like it just kind of like dawned on me that I was like maybe 10 feet or like 10 yards away, like occasionally like walking in the fairway, which I don't know if I was supposed to do, but it was just really that was just a really cool experience. So the group I followed was Akshay Bhatia, Jake Knapp, and Matt Fitzpatrick. Three of some of the purest swings you'll ever see, and just seeing them in person was just really good. Akshay, T3 at 15 under, just, consistent. He was someone that like I honestly thought on Sunday he was going to take it home just because his speed on the greens was incredible. I feel like once the sun came out and everything firmed up, like the speed was just really difficult for these players to get a handle on, and Akshay was just putting it within like a foot every single time. Like he had a really, really great sense of speed. Just very consistent. 68, 67, 67, 67. Um, don't even say it. Just great, great finish. Jake Knapp, um, the smoothest swing I've ever seen. Like that wrist action is just it's so aesthetically pleasing to watch, and just seeing it in person was incredible. Um, really really loved his game so far. He's been playing, obviously, at the top five of the Farmers, just outside the top 10 of the Sony. He's going to be in the field at Pebble this week through the Aeon Swing 5, I believe.
Hmm.
Just, obviously a local product as well, Scottsdale native. So just really, really good to see him in contention. And then the last one, this one hurt for me, Matt Fitzpatrick, our resident Wildcat. I really thought he was going to pull it off. Like I think he was 8 under at the turn on Thursday. So like I thought we were on course record watch. I really thought it was gonna be the week of Matt Fitzpatrick. But like outside of that first round, so like he was 8 under through the turn, then he just kind of fell back and just fell into a par rhythm, and then he finished bogey bogey to finish the round. And so it's just unfortunate. And then um, wasn't really spectacular throughout his second and third rounds. Like was in it, so it was very much like in the mix. And then Sunday, he started strong on Sunday. Like he was, he got the birdie on the third hole, but then He was playing these like low, like bullet cuts. I think he was trying to like get it out of the wind. And so he put it in the bunker on five on the right, and then short-sided himself, pin high on with his second shot. Couldn't get the up and down. And then hole seven, the par three, it was about 210 to a tucked right pin. And then he tugged it left. He was looking in the crowd. I think he said someone might have said something. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Like, not, I'm not buying it. But ended up not getting up and down once again. Was one over to make the turn, and then he rattled off three birdies on 13, 14, 15. Thought maybe there's a chance to like get back in the mix, but I think it was just too little, too late. Probably had a good chance to win the tournament, but ultimately just didn't materialize for him.
Yeah, it was a bummer to watch the way that played out. I mean, I think you mentioned it. I think it's either 7 or 8 under on his first nine, but either way, it was less. He played his I think in his first eight actually. He played 7 under, and then he really played the next 64 holes in 6 under. So
Mhm.
it just like he was so hot coming out of the gate. And I feel like whenever that happens, you're kind of like, man, it's obviously not sustainable, but like, is he going to be even able to like hold on to this and, play? Because if you're 7 under through eight and then he just plays like kind of average golf for him, even he probably can take this one and win it, 17, 18 under 3 rounds and 3.5 rounds and 10 under par. But I have a question just for, I know you were following Batia and Jake Knapp. Those two guys, like as I think about their swings, they're just like both so powerful and so smooth, but like polar opposites. Like it just looks like Akshay puts his entire body. What's it like watching Akshay put his entire body into a swing, and then Jake Knapp just looks like he's barely swinging at that thing, and they're probably both going 320. It just seems like it must have been wild to follow those two back to back.
And not to mention, even Matt Fitzpatrick swings the club faster than I've ever seen in my life as well. Like it's just three of the most unique swings you'll ever see, and they were all like just bombing it, and it was just really really cool to see just each one of them approaching it differently. Like obviously, like Fitz was playing those low burners, and Akshay was just like bombing it into the wind. Like he was just hitting these like high like towering bombs, and it was just when you see them up close, it's just really cool to see how they go about the game and just seeing the swings. It just makes it where you can't see it like that on TV. It's really just amazing.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
there were
definitely.
so many incredible guys. It was really something to behold having that many guys. Will, you're so right in that piece you wrote about what this course does, giving so many guys a chance to win and giving the opportunity for so many guys to be in contention. It makes it such a fun tournament.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the only other guys worth mentioning, Nikolai Højgaard, T3, 15 under, just a fun one. He could have had a shot to win. He was in the final group on Sunday, and he played a bogey free round and actually played a double bogey free round as well. But unfortunately, it was not triple bogey free. He tripled his second hole and still finished one shot out of the playoff. And it's got to hurt a little bit. He goes 66, 70, 65, still shoots that 68 3 under par with a triple in there. um, yeah, he rallied, played the last 16 holes on Sunday in 6 under, missed out on the cup by one or on the playoff by one shot, like I said, which is it was I love watching Nikolai Højgaard, another one who just like bombs the ball, looks great. If he can kind of dial in that short game, he plays really, really well, especially at courses like this. Obviously that triple is unfortunate, but it was awesome to see him playing well. The other guy, Victor Hovland, first start of the year, promising signs. I mean, I think again, another guy that he finishes T10, 12 under. He could have been near the top of the leaderboard in this thing. Like we've talked about that finishing stretch, the last 6 holes, two par fives, drivable par four, which isn't really drivable on Sunday when they put the pin back there. But still you're having a little flip wedge in theory. But Hovland plays the last 9 holes with no birdies and one bogey, which you can't do at TPC Scottsdale if you want to be a part of this tournament on the last few holes because like we said, there's a lot of birdie opportunities, and the guy who's going to win is going to make 2 or 3 birdies down the stretch and chase somebody down or extend their lead. And Hovland just couldn't put his foot on the floor to really chase somebody down. But I think for your first tournament start, he had a Saturday 65 and a Sunday 68 to like even get his name worth mentioning up here. I think I mean, obviously he played at the Hero Dubai Desert Classic, so it's not like the first time he played golf this year. He played out on the DP World Tour, but still, I think that was definitely a promising signs from him and another guy that, has shown flashes of being a potential major champion and somebody that's going to be near the top of those odds boards every time we go to these major championship venues. But he also has been erratic. He's another guy who he's a tinkerer. He's always talked about his process and how he believes that his a good process will lead to good results, which meant for him for some reason that after he was playing really really well, and we've heard this before in the early 2000s, decided to change his swing a little bit, because he's just always thinks there's more out there. So it's good to see him playing well. I'd love to see him settle into a swing and feel good about it and make some noise this year again. It's been a minute since we've really seen him step up the way we know he can.
Yeah, you mentioned Hovland, and so I actually got to talk to him after his round on Saturday, and he mentioned that he was really just toying with a putting grip change, and that was what was giving him a lot of success on these greens. That's what was really helping him out. And then someone asked a question about like, oh, now that you're hitting it better, and he's like interrupted him. He's like, I said I was putting better. I didn't say I was hitting it better. So that's just another one. Like obviously he's one of the most critical people about his own game. Like I remember that infamous quote where he's like, I suck at chipping. But he's always been one that's very open about his process, like you said, and he was putting very well this week. And so like obviously the grip change must have done him some favors. And so I'm interested to see what he can do the rest of the way of the season.
Yeah, it seems like all these guys are tinkerers and they're always thinking about stuff at one point, and that's why they are where they're at. They're so successful because they're so dialed in. And I'll just quickly talk about the tournament aside from the golf, just how amazed I was by the sheer infrastructure of this place. I mean, the 16th hole, the Coliseum is unlike anything I've ever seen before. It seems like it's completely separate from the tournament itself. It's like its own mini part of the course. I can't wait to like go back and see what it's like without the grandstands and everything around because I really can't even picture it in my head. It's such an unbelievable event. The Thunderbirds do such a great job. Waste Management does such a great job. They have so many people there working it. It's quite incredible. On Wednesday, I went on a sustainability tour and they kind of took us through all the nitty-gritty infrastructure details about how this tournament comes together and how they bring everything to life. And it truly is unbelievable. Um, so I just thought that was really cool. And then, I want to hear some of your guys' favorite parts from being out onto the course and some of the details you took away and what you're looking forward to next time you go. I'll say for me, it was really fun. Starting out on one on Friday, I followed Jake Knapp for a good portion of his round. And just starting out at one and going from one, two, three, four, and that fifth hole, which was way out yonder and not even a close. I mean, you are so segregated from the rest of the course. You can like barely hear the roars going on from 16, but it's just so out there and it's so quaint. It's like a separate part of the tournament, and I just thought that was really cool. If I was going, I think I'd maybe want to go to 16 for one day to experience that. But really, the best golf you're going to see is on that front nine, and I think we kind of heard that from other players throughout the week too. But I'm interested to hear some of your guys' takeaways from
Yeah.
some of the smaller details.
I think the one thing I'll say before Nick and I get into some of the stuff we rode and we experienced out there. You mentioned 16 being how crazy it is, how crazy those stands are. But we were lucky enough to get around the tee box and like be standing back there. And you try to visualize like, oh, like what would I do like hitting this shot? And man, I've played so many 150-yard par threes in my life. Like I've countless. And usually I'm like, oh, great. Like I've got, whatever it is, like a short iron in, like great. I feel pretty confident in getting a par there. It looks like it's 250 yards with the stand up, man. It
Yeah.
was like standing there. I'm like, I literally don't think I could get this anywhere close. And it's not a hard shot. Obviously the greens are hard and the bunkering's hard, but it's just like, man, I looking at that compared to, like you said, what that must look like with the stands down. It it's got to be night and day. I mean, just an average 160-yard par three versus like what looks impossible from the tee box with all those stands and all those people. It was a really, really incredible experience
Foxy,
standing on that tee
Foxy, if you'll
box.
have us back, I can't wait to come
Yeah,
back. 16.
yeah. The manager of the 16th hole, the god of the 16th hole, please bring us back. It was incredible. Again, we were lucky enough to walk up to the green too, and kind of stand there and look around at what's there. And like you try to take, I tried, at least I was trying to take the stands away in my mind to just like think of it as a golf hole, but you just it's a totally different world with those stands up. It was wild to see.
It just makes the green look so tiny, even though it's
Hmm.
not. Like, I can, duck out of the way. You can see it behind me. Like it's
Yeah, me
not
too. There it is.
it's a sizable green. It doesn't look that hard to hit, but when you're standing on that tee box, it looks minuscule.
And the
Yeah,
way the Coliseum is all the way around, it really traps the wind in there too, just
Yes.
complicating the shots even more. I mean, that was something I noticed when we first kind of walked in was like, wow, it is really windy in here.
yeah, and I think Scotty mentioned that in his Wednesday presser, right? He mentioned somebody asked him about 16, and he mentioned that they're like, oh, like how do you figure out what you're going to hit on 16? He's like, it's really not about the atmosphere for me. It's like, which obviously, this is varies guy to guy, but he's like, man, it's about figuring out that wind because it comes over the top of that stadium. It swirls around inside of it. You obviously, can't feel what's above the stands when you're down on the tee box. So it's about making sure you know what's going on because again the green is big but there's a lot of fall offs like if you're short it might come down short if you're right there's a little swale there if you're left it can trickle into the bunkers or between the bunkers and find that fairway area so that it's a smaller surface area that's actually like you can land and stay on the green than it is a green obviously but I mean yeah it I know the wind's got to be an impossible thing to figure out but I'm more than happy to get into some of the stories I wrote. We talked about one already. I had a blast learning more about and talking to players about this finishing stretch. I won't harp on it too much, but because we've already talked so much about it and the way it played out this weekend in particular. But obviously, this tournament always plays close. I mean, Thomas Dietrich's 7-shot win last year was the exception, not the rule, or maybe the exception that proves the rule. Who knows? But whatever that expression even really means. But before that, I think this makes 7 of 11 years that are have playoffs in the past 11 tournaments, including this year. Um,
It's
and it
incredible.
just it always plays close, and it was really cool to dive into that. Obviously, I talked to Scotty very briefly on his Wednesday presser about it, and he, pretty much said exactly what I expected him to because of the way that this tournament plays out. He said that you can either be aggressive and put yourself at risk or play safe or put yourself at risk of making high scores or play safe and put yourself at risk of somebody else coming up from behind you. But what really caught my attention when we were walking around was more that like a lot of these holes playing safe is no guarantee. Like I think 15's one where like you're like, okay, look, playing safe really gives you a good shot for birdie if you're a good wedge player and kind of takes a lot of the risk out. Because the risk is really on that second shot where if you pull a long iron even a little bit, you're wet on the left side there. And then you're kind of struggling to make bogey, but or make par and you're likely to make bogey. But like on 17, when we were sitting there on Sunday with that pin all the way back, I mean, that is a hard golf hole. We saw guys chip it into the water from the front, like from just off the front of the green. You just catch a little bit more ball than you think, and you land it near the hole instead of 5 feet short of the hole. You can't get that spin. It rolls over the top, and all of a sudden it's in that rough or in the water, and you're chipping again. We saw Siwoo Kim, I think, had a two-putt par where his first putt actually went back into the rough and almost went into the water, ended up on the hazard line, chipped it up, made the putt for par. So not your standard two-putt par, but a two-putt par nonetheless. Um, Man, it was a blast learning about that. I know I talked to Sahith about it as well. I talked to Nick Taylor, obviously, who's had his experiences here in 23 and 24. I think he birdied 18 3 times in a row in 2024 to beat Charlie Hoffman on the 72nd and then the two playoff holes. Um, but man, it's really really cool. And obviously, Sahith had that unfortunate pulled shot that lost him the tournament when he went in the water in I think it was 2022. But I had a blast learning more about that. And I talked to caddies a little bit too. I was curious to hear what the fans and the noise, how these like first time caddies and experienced caddies, how they kind of bring that in to their preparation, and a lot of them had a similar comments that it didn't really they didn't think about it too much, which was a little bit surprising to me, especially for first time caddies. There, but again, like I said before, they were kind of all agreeing that they think their players love this, and they'll keep an eye on their players, and if they feel like they're stressed or whatever, then they'll step in. But I talked to Joe Griner, who's been on the bag for Max Homa, and Kevin Chappell in the mid 2010s, and now is caddying for Akshay. And he was like, "Yeah, man, I treat it like any other tournament, and it's like you watch your player, and if you feel like they're getting a little tense, then you loosen them up. But for the most part, these guys love it. They feed off it, and that was really cool to learn too."
I think that's one thing that, just talking to these players, I talked to Fitz on Thursday and I asked him kind of just about the tournament. So like that was one of the pieces that I worked on. I'm still currently working on it, still looking for a place to put it. So if anybody has any leads, just let me know. But I was looking at, so the earliest mention of golf etiquette that I found was from the 16 or 1750 Aberdeen Code of Golf in Scotland. That actually, I'm going to pull this up just because it's worth reading out loud. Um, so
Yeah,
it says, while a stroke is playing, none of the party shall walk about, make any motion, or attempt to take off the player's attention by speaking or otherwise. And for centuries, these were the laws of the land, and they still currently govern the game of golf. And then for 1 week out of the year, we throw them completely out the window. And so I was talking to just both players and fans alike about just like what makes this tournament special. Um, and I feel like what I learned was that it's not this crazy, like it's not the waste management that's this crazy tournament. I feel like what Fitz said was that there's really realistically like two or three holes where you're gonna get that level. He said the word abuse. Like he specifically used the word abuse, which obviously like considering what happened at Bethpage, I wouldn't be surprised that he thinks this, but you know, he said there's really only two, three holes where you're going to get that, and then the rest of the time it's a golf tournament. So like he said, it's in good fun. They like it, and it's all just part of the fun. And then the other piece I did, it also actually revolves around Fitz. I happened to I happened to run into someone wearing a Northwestern polo on Sunday, and I later found out that that was Matt's college roommate when he was at Northwestern. And so I'm currently working on a story about like just how the Northwestern connection still kind of follows him like 10 plus years later. And then the last one I did was I took the big storyline of, the defending champion, Thomas Dietrich. He was leading a golf tournament after day one. It just wasn't our tournament. He was, on top of the leaderboard in Riyadh, like he was doing very well. And so I asked a bunch of fans, like, hey, what do you think about Thomas Dietrich not being here? And just the general consensus was, like, who?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
nobody knew who he was. And it was just it just made me sad. Like just seeing how his legacy was just erased like that, basically. Like outside of like, when we walked in, like, they had the defending champions like on the wall. And that was like the only mention of him across the entire week was just that one picture.
yeah. It's a shame not having a defending champion. It's always fun having that be a storyline. The guy trying to go back to back, and who knows what Dietrich would have done this week. But yeah, it was. I'm a little glad he didn't actually win out in Dubai or Riyadh this week. But yeah, it was a shame to have him kind of entirely erased from this, like you pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many cool things from our week there. So grateful to have done that, and I know we
I
all had
Yeah,
such a good time.
I do want to shout
And
out before we move on the Saturday Breakfast Club that I was
Mm,
lucky enough
oh
to
yes.
yeah, let's hear about
witness. Maybe not my greatest idea, but hey, I'm glad I did it in retrospect. But
that.
we were working on like a sights and sounds of the WM Phoenix Open kind of idea. And of course, one of the most famous things about the WM is the Breakfast Club run to 16, which happens every day, but Saturday is kind of like the big day where essentially the fans will line up at God knows what hour. I know the guys who were in the front of the line that day, this Saturday, had gotten there at 1 a.m. dressed entirely in chicken costumes, which was great.
As one does.
Um, they got there at 1 a.m. and then at about 5 a.m. I got there at 4:30 to try to get some content for this. And at 5 a.m. they opened the main gate. let everybody run into this corral, which is up near on the left side of, or I guess if you're playing 18, it's on the right side of 18 fairway, like up on that hill. And they're all in this corral and they stand there for 2 hours. The WM does a great job. They've got guys walking around giving out breakfast burritos or selling breakfast burritos and waters to everybody that's in line. And then at right around 7, I think today this year it was like I don't know 7:07 or something like that. The cops like remove the barricade from in front of everybody, and they're like, if you guys move, you get kicked out of the tournament. If you move before I say you can move, you're kicked out. And then the guys, so they're just like standing there, and then there's a Thunderbird who one of the Thunderbirds comes up and gives a brief speech and it ends with, okay, 3, 2, 1. And then on one, I mean, it's not a short sprint, but they sprint from there to 16. I think the kids in the front of the line told me they'd mapped it out at 0.73 miles, which is not short when you've been up for 27 hours and are 7 energy drinks and 12 other drinks deep at that point. So it was, and watching them sprint, and then, I walk over to 16 where we had one of our classmates and coworkers, Catherine was working on 16 with me that day, and walking over there and watching them file in and watching the DJs already playing music, and they can't serve alcohol till 10 a.m. But man, they are riled up for, the next 3 hours sitting in those seats. And it was a blast. God, I think it's on the bucket list. I wouldn't say it's high on the bucket list because it is brutal, but it's on the bucket list. But we were talking, man, like if you sit in those 16 seats on Saturday, you're baking in 85-degree
Ugh.
sunlight for at least 4 or 5 hours that day. And you're probably not the most hydrated person on the planet to be dealing with that at that point. So it's it's on the bucket list. It's something I want to do just to check it off. But it's a brutal wake up, but it was really cool to watch in person and kind of see how insane these people are about it. There was chicken costumes. Obviously, there's the Monties, the Canadian Monty costumes. There's the wizards always. There's everything in
Bananas.
between. There's bananas. There was a bunch of guys who were dressed as Toad that would only make the Super Mario Toad sound, which I will refrain from doing at this current moment, but they were really, really enjoying making that sound over and over and over again at 5 a.m. Um, it was such a blast. I mean, such a weird experience, such a unique experience to this golf course, to this tournament. But it's something definitely worth. I mean, God, a 4 a.m. wake up is brutal, but worth keeping an eye on. And or like if you're ever out there, worth doing. I think personally, it'll suck for a day, but man, it's fun.
Yeah, I think the one thing I noticed was that there was never anybody there for all 4 days. Everybody was there for just like one day. Like
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's got the stamina for that.
No,
no,
it's a lot like Vegas in that way. You can only do so much.
One night
definitely.
is great. 2 nights is pushing it. 3 nights is too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing I'll say about it, I love the like the marshals on like 16 that put their hands up to keep everybody quiet, just to
Hmm.
absolutely no avail. Just the most
Yeah,
pointless thing ever. But
So I got to talk to one of them. I talked to the head marshal on 16, and he said, like, yeah, nobody listens to me. And he's like, it's all in good fun. He's like, as long as everybody's having fun, but he's like, I think he described it as like the most useless job in golf. Like,
totally,
it
so funny.
was incredible. But
Okay,
shall
well,
we move on?
yeah, let's talk
guess we might.
a little DP World Tour. Anything significant there? I know Patrick Reed got the win, so it's notable.
Yeah,
Yeah, our
that's a
buddy Patrick
significant
Reed.
thing. Like, right? Yeah, like Nick said, our good buddy. Keeps doing it. Last three starts and on the DP World Tour, 2 wins and a playoff loss. Pretty good. Great to see him pretty much, obviously, like we said, when he announced that he wanted to come to the PGA Tour, he had the prior champion status locked up, but could do better by getting into the top 10 of the race to Dubai. He could earn better status. And I think we're pretty close to having that locked up, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks into the DP World Tour season. So that's kind of my main takeaway. Callum Hill got second, which is good for him, considering last week we were talking about him just duck hooking one out of bounds and then cold shanking one into the water in a pretty consequential playoff to lose to Freddie Shot. But good to see him back up there. Obviously, that pretty horrific turn of events last week didn't bring him down for too long. So always good to see a guy rebound like that.
And I will say for Patrick Reed, one last thing. I read today he has a higher world ranking now than when he originally left for Live, which I think is
Wow.
incredible.
I do want to ask, like, obviously we're so far away from Patrick Reed being back on the PGA Tour. And obviously the current DP World Tour with a lot of the, Rory and Tommy no longer playing out there is different than the PGA Tour currently is with just like the top level talent. I mean, there's some incredible players out on the DP World Tour. I do not want to disparage it in the slightest, but in terms of the Scotty Schefflers of the world, which there is only one, there's Scotty Scheffler. He's the only Scotty Scheffler of the world, but he's on the PGA Tour. Where, if let's extrapolate, Patrick Reed continues this exact form, he doesn't win every tournament, but just the way he's playing continues this way into 2027, where is he stacking up for you guys on the PGA Tour right now? Like if we transplanted him to the current PGA Tour, where is he stacking up at these tournaments right now?
I think where my big test is going to be the majors.
Yeah,
And I think once we see him in the majors this year, then we might have a better idea of like where his game actually is. Um, but if you were to ask me today, like who my top five were at Augusta this year, like I would throw Patrick Reed up there. Like
especially yeah, if he's coming off some wins, man, like
past
momentum's a
champion,
thing. Yeah,
like he's definitely someone he's playing hot and he is just he's very focused, very organized. Like he's someone that and again, like you could say maybe the strength of the field isn't great, but at the end of the day, I've said this from the beginning, ball don't lie. Like he's still finding a way to win amongst the field. And I definitely think that he is entering almost kind of like a new chapter of his career where he can kind of take that step forward and just like be, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he kind of runs out of gas by 2027. But for now, I think he's just on a real heater, and I'm excited to see just how long he can keep this up.
I think we
yeah,
see this in like all sports. I think there's something to be said for like winning and the confidence that that gives you intrinsically. You really can't, whether or not the field is as strong, obviously it's not, but there is something to be said for actually winning tournaments and kind of that fuck you attitude Patrick Reed might have coming into the majors this year. I mean, I'm with you, Nick. I'd have him top five for the Masters for sure.
And
100%. Nick,
that's why, real quick, that's why everybody wants Tiger to play on the Champions Tour. Not because like they just want to see
yeah.
him like beat up a bunch of seniors, but like that just get him in the mindset of like,
Hmm.
here's how I play 54 holes and win a tournament. Like here's if I make this putt, I tie for the lead. Like just get in that mindset of like what it takes to win a tournament.
You know how like good golfers, like so one of the drills is not something I wouldn't call this a drill, but I think a lot of good golfers when they are training, practicing to get in the mindset of making birdies, they'll play from the front tees,
Yeah.
just like play up there. That's how Tiger Woods on the Champions Tour feels to me conceptually. Like get yourself in the mindset of making I know he's not going to shoot a 54 and do whatever that, these great golfers do from the front tees, but like get yourself some birdies, get yourself in that mindset like you said, Nick, and kind of get yourself rolling and then, put yourself against real competition in the majors and at PGA on the PGA Tour and see what happens.
It's the
Mhm.
same thing you do when you're trying to get faster and you start sprinting downhill to train your muscles to be able to run faster than you normally would. It's kind of like that. It's very similar. And I think the mental part of golf, I'm not going to say like golf takes more mental strength than any other sports. They obviously do, and they all do it in different ways. But there's just something about tricking your mind into thinking you can do something despite the competition, right? I think it's transferable to all different types of tournaments.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And last thing I'll say on the Qatar Masters, I think what's impressed me about Patrick Reed a little bit too is that he's doing this in different, he's winning in different ways or putting himself in position to win in different ways. I think last week we saw he shot, I think it was a 71, a pretty unremarkable first round, and then really rallied and like stepped on the gas to get himself into that playoff on Sunday. Obviously, he did not convert. He kind of collapsed on that one playoff hole on that Sunday, but to get himself in that position, he really rallied and recovered from a tough first round. This week, he starts really well with a 65, I think it's 6 under par on that par 71 in Qatar, and then uh, after round two, he's leading or tied for the lead, and nobody in the top five shot better than a 70 in round three. So he kind of just shot a 70 on Saturday, shot a 70 on Sunday. Nobody caught him, but he didn't go particularly low, but that was one under on both days, but he just did what he needed to do. He did enough to maintain his lead. I think it was one shot after Friday and two shots after Saturday. And he just, kind of got himself that win without having to, step on necks the way he had to the week before to get himself up there. So it's impressive to see him doing it in different ways and, you know, both playing really, really, really well and making a lot of birdies when he needs to, but not necessarily doing that every single time when he doesn't need to.
Yeah, good for Patrick Reed. Okay, quickly on the Corn Ferry Tour. James Nicholas won. So my question is, who is James Nicholas?
It's it's good for him. This is a quick good for James Nicholas wins his first Corn Ferry Tour event, 19 under. I think he made an eagle on the last hole to win, which is always fun.
Oh
Like
yeah.
always cool. Drained, I think it was like 12 feet, 15 feet for eagle on that last hole. Obviously, I've only seen Nicholas really. I think I conceptually knew he was on the PJ Tour, but I've only seen him on social media. Really, I've seen him in his TikTok series where every week he'll do my expenses and my pay from the Corn Ferry Tour. Obviously, this week I think he was up 180,000, which he's not necessarily used to being up. He kept messing up the way you say it. He'd say 1,000, 180, or 100,000, 80,000, something like that. Just kept messing it up, and he's like, "Man, I just am not used to these kinds of numbers." But uh, good for him. I think he said his caddy made a good 20K out of this week too. So always good to see new guys winning, but I don't have a ton beyond the fact that I know he's got 24,000 subscribers on YouTube and does some TikTok content as well.
Nice. Okay, well, let's get into our follow-through picks. I know not everyone had guys playing. I think I was the only one to pick up points this week, correct?
Yes. Maybe.
Well, the follow through, we don't do the points in the follow through. That's
Oh, that's
all
right. We
that's
don't
all
do follow through
fantasy
Oh,
points.
golf
that's
style.
not fantasy. Okay, separate.
Wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, don't get
Well,
too
Neil
excited, Kyle.
Shipley did get you points though.
Um,
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. That's really just what I'm trying to get out of you guys is can we acknowledge my points this week? Okay,
We
thank
can.
you.
You did it.
Okay. Okay.
Congratulations.
Okay, well, bring us through Cam Young, Berger.
Yeah, fairly unremarkable. Cam Young, a little disappointing. 70, 69, 69, 71. Just couldn't get those low rounds. Made a good amount of birdies, made a lot of bogeys. Just it was good to see him finally playing. This was his first start of the year. Yeah, it was his first start of the year, but just an unremarkable week for Cam Young. Would have liked to see more. I think this is a course that theoretically fits his game. We'll continue to monitor the situation. Um, but yeah, T41 solid, made the cut. Nothing exciting though. Daniel Berger, on the other hand, continues to play quite well. T16 at 10 under with a 67, 71, 71, 65. So really, two fairly mediocre rounds on Friday and Saturday that prevented him from really making a run at this thing to any significant degree. But good to see him playing well. DB straight vibing, always out there having a good time, always um, high floor guy. I feel like he's not going to go out there and embarrass himself, which is part of why I'm curious to follow him this week to see if he can go from the high floor guy to also having a pretty high ceiling. But so far so good this year. Obviously, Hyjin Choi not playing, but looking forward to the LPGA's start to the Asian swing next week in Thailand. Nick, I know your guys weren't all playing this week, but I believe I saw Spieth out there for a moment.
Ludwig Oberg is in the field at Pebble Beach. We'll see how he plays. See if he's feeling better. Maybe he can get back in a groove and nothing else happened. Kyle, what do you got? Please, let's move on. Please, please, please.
We might have to talk it for a second. I don't know.
Okay, fine. Like you guys know I'm gonna be honest, okay? I've been holding this in since Friday, okay?
Give
I'm
it to
I'm
us.
we make jokes about the Jordan Spieth experience, right? Like it's funny, we laugh about it on TV. It's fun to watch. But watching it in person is its own thing. It's you really see the body language, you see just everything that's going on, and I don't want to get too much into hyperbole just because it's one event, but that was demoralizing, man. Like he he looked to be in good position on Thursday, and he was 3 under through 17, was looking like I would have killed for a 3 under par on Thursday. Like I thought that would have been a great result for him. Like I was really excited heading into the week for him. And then on 18, he puts his approach shot short, skies the chip over the green, flubs the chip to get back onto the green, makes like a 20-footer to save double, but ends up finishing at one under par. And then just um, the entire day on Friday, just nothing of substance. I think he put it in the rough on 15, took a three wood at it. I don't know if he had I didn't see his lie, but I don't know. I think that's just a case of Spieth being Spieth. Tried to go for it in two out of the rough, puts it in the water, and then the true Jordan Spieth experience puts it to 2 inches with the drop shot to save par. Subsequently, three putts from 40 feet on 16, and then drives it in a great spot on 17 to make birdie to put himself back under the cut line, chips it over the green and into the water, makes double. That was just a tough watch. Like, I think
Yeah.
you look at him and he's a player where at this moment, if something goes wrong, like if one little detail goes wrong, he just unravels. And you don't like it hurts to say, like it's just it's a he's a difficult watch at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the exact same thing you said. I think his entire tournament changed with that double on 18. And again, like you said, even though he'd made that 20-footer to save double on 18 in round one, and like hopefully you think like, okay, maybe that conserves some momentum. But like you said, a three under par puts him at, I think it was T14 after round one, T14 after
Hmm.
round one, which is a great spot. That's exactly where you want to be, and allows you to not play that scrambly or that aggressive to get onto that cut, to stay on under that cut line. But yeah, it felt like the second that double dropped on 18, you felt the air go out of him, and it was just like, okay, you know, he's gonna have to battle on Friday, even though one under would have made the cut. He's gonna have to battle on Friday to keep this thing in check and play the weekend.
Yeah, and it was just like I saw him walking around the compound after his round on Friday, and he just looked deflated, like he just looked like he had nothing, and it was just you want him to do well. He's obviously one of the best players of the 2010s. You want him to do well, and that was just a really tough watch. So, Pebbles next week, and few players have played Pebble Beach better than Jordan Spieth over their careers. And so maybe we see a resurgence. I said the same thing about TPC Scottsdale, but I don't know. It's not very fun in the Spieth Hive at the moment.
No. The fat lady has not sung yet, though. It is not
No,
over.
she has
We could,
not.
she is not. She's warming up a little bit, but she has not sung.
Yeah, she's stretching a little bit. Like,
Yeah, hard,
and yeah,
hard.
obviously Lottie Wode, no action so far.
Yeah. Well, yeah, hard to imagine Spieth winning at this point, but who knows? We'll see. Okay, my guys, Tommy Fleetwood, he's gonna make his PGA Tour debut at Pebble Beach for 2026. So interested to see how he does there. I'll be following him. He's played a few DP World Tour events, nothing very remarkable to show from that. So it'll be interesting to see him back in this field with all the guys. My other guy, Neil Shipley. He made the cut, which was nice. His first made cut of the 2026 season. He was tied for 68. He shot a 69 round one, a 70 round two, and then just an abysmal Saturday. He shot a 76 and then salvaged that with a 70 on Sunday. But good for him to make the cut. He's definitely playing a little better than he did to start the year. And then, like we said, no LPGA this week, so Gino Titicul had nothing, but we will be looking forward to their next event this coming week. So we can move on to next on the tee. So we are going to do a podcast tomorrow where we're going to do our Pebble Beach Pro Am preview. We're going to talk a little bit, recapping what we've seen so far in 2026 and what we can expect going forward as that pertains to the tournament. We've got our fantasy golf standings, not to be confused with our follow-through picks. So Nick,
Common
right?
mistake.
Yeah, common mistake. We all do it. We hear about it so much, so it just rattles around in my brain. Nick's at 220 points. He's got Scotty Scheffler top five, which was plus 60 for him this past week. Ben Griffin made the cut, so he had 10 from that. Will is in second place at 165 points. He had Matty Fitz top 10, which got him 35 points. and a burger top 20, which was 20 points for him. And then, like I said, my boy Neil Shipley made the cut to give me 10 points to bring me all the way up to 40 points. Oh my God, that just looks so
Dude, it's
bad
tough
reading it out
sledding.
loud.
It's tough sledding. Even
'Cause,
even when Shipley makes the cut, Sam Burns misses it. It's tough out there for Team Kyle right now.
I need somebody to do something for me for the love of all things good in life. Okay, so we're going to be putting out our official picks for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am this coming week, so look out for that on Instagram. We've got Twitter at Center Cup Pod. We've got Instagram at centercup.pod. We're going to be putting we had a tough time putting out content from the WM Phoenix Open just because we were all so busy running around the course and churning out stories and stuff. But we're going to be back on top of that this week. So be on the lookout for that. Email us at centercup.pod@yahoo.com. Ask us anything. Tell us if you were at Scottsdale. Let us know if you saw us anywhere out lurking. If you saw Nick crying watching Jordan Spieth playing, we'd love to hear about it. What up?
I was not crying.
I think sobbing is a better word for it, really.
Yeah,
No, I got in the car and we drove and I got a big burrito and I was okay.
that's true. That burrito did save you.
That was the we talk about the double bogey like taking all the air out. Like the burrito that put the air in the rest of my weekend right
Yeah,
there.
just
But
refilled it with rice and beans and cheese to get the air back in there.
Yeah, we'll stop talking about it. Just that's all we need to know.
perfect. Okay, anything else to close out for you guys?
I think we covered it.
Perfect. Okay, thank you everyone. We will talk to you tomorrow.